G'day guys and welcome. My name is Michael and I am a professional role player and game master from Perth, Western Australia, and I'm here to share with you guys some thoughts and ideas that I've had on tabletop role-playing games. Now, today we're going to be discussing role-playing insane characters, and I know the first thing most of you are thinking is like, Michael, you're insane, you don't know role-playing. Yeah, okay, fair enough. So today, yeah, I'm not going to really be talking about insane characters and, you know, the kind of varieties of ones that you can play and give you all these creative ideas. I think that there is plenty of creativity out there. What I'm going to be talking about today is some of the troubles insane characters have when it comes to being at a table. Now, the first thing I want to start off with is the misapprehension of what it means to be insane. First and foremost, I'm not going to be talking about mental illness or those who suffer or live with some sort of mental disability. That is a whole other chapter in this. There is a whole other thing. For me, insanity in a narrative sense for characters, for the purposes of storytelling, for role-playing, are people who have a interpretation of the world that differs from the reality. Unlike the real world, where there is plenty of room for growth and speculation and the unknown, in a game world, there isn't. You are a GM, and you know what the reality is. If you're playing in the Forgotten Realms, there are the gods of the Pantheon, and to believe that they don't exist is insane. They do. You can reach out to them with spells and get an actual tangible response. So, you know, in my mind, that is what an insane character is. Your attitude or your perception of the world differs in some major way. This could be a viewpoint that turns you into a zealot or a lunatic, or it could be something that is more personal and a little bit stranger or quirkier, like believing that rubber ducks can predict the future. These things are fantastic ways to make a character unique and interesting, but there is a very fine line between interesting and a gimmick. So let's talk about this. First and foremost, when you're building an insane character, you need to understand the world better than anyone else. That's my first rule, is if you want to play someone insane, you have to know what the world is. You can't just simply go, well, I have no idea what the world is, but this is what I'm going to believe regardless of if it's true or not. That is not how you play an insane character. That is how you play a Lucy look at me, right? If you are basically sitting there going, hey everyone, check out how insane I am. Look, ha 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 ha, right? That is not an interesting character, that's a gimmick. Understanding what the world's base is a great way to define what your character understands. If you know, for example, that the world is built upon the back of these four elephants riding on a turtle, and that the world is indeed flat, going around and telling everyone that the world is round, and trying to prove it because you're a scholar and you need to prove this. It's true, I swear it's true, is insane and interesting and furthers the story, furthers the lore, and makes you a living, tangible part of this world, right? So that's what you want to always make sure of. Make sure you understand the world lore before you try to misinterpret it, right? Failing to do so might offend your GM. Nothing is worse than when your GM is trying to create a narrative construct and you are just, I guess, reflexively repelling it, right? Because, yeah, that could happen. You behold, there is this kingdom ruled by a beautiful matriarch who is kind and loving and cares for all of their subjects. She eats penguins! Look, that's insane, yes, and that is an insane character, but it is interfering with and otherwise undermining the narrative that the GM is saying. So the GM can tend to, don't be surprised if the GM starts lashing out at that sort of thing. So don't do that. Know the world, then pick something and build that insanity around. Number 2, if you're playing on a table with someone who is an insane character, define your friendship. This is important. By defining your friendship, you will tell if your party will either support or reject your insanity. Now, if your party is rejecting your insanity, it is your imperative as an insane character to try and either tone it down or overcome. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's take the rubber duck that can read the future. If your fellow players are constantly telling you that the rubber duck can't read the future and that you're wrong and that you should stop talking to the rubber duck and things like that, maybe instead of talking to it at all given opportunities, you're sitting quietly by a campfire. You move aside from the group. You open your jacket and you talk to the rubber duck quietly. Having those moments still keeps your insanity intact, but presents less of a conflict between you and the other players. Now, if you have a good friendship, if you have a nice, strong, healthy ally helping you out, it could come down to that. Yes, you are insane, but they've accepted that and they're helping you. It's a case of like the rubber duck thinks that there are traps up ahead. Okay, let's look out for traps. Don't question the fact that he was talking to a rubber duck. Don't spend your time saying, no, well, don't talk to the rubber duck. Just play with it and accept the knowledge that it's giving you and help it further your adventure. By doing so, it creates a strong ally relationship that will carry on and keep that insanity fresh and a part of the character rather than just a little gimmicky thing off to the side. It also doesn't hurt if your insanity is, of course, of some benefit to the rest of the group. Like, let's say that your insanity is a mechanic, like a spell, and you have the ability to actually disrupt people's calm around you. You have a bunch of spells like Rage or Depression or Tasha's Hideous Laughter or Dancing Lights or whatever, and you do that all the time. You drive people insane around you. That's cool, that's awesome, and that is effective in the game. The third, and probably the most toxic of the issues you may face, is bigotry. Now, bigotry in a lot of ways can fall into the same category as insanity, where you might have the misapprehension that, for example, halflings are bad luck and one should never touch a halfling without washing with salt or something. I don't know, whatever. This is unacceptable. I'm just going to say it. I don't believe it's acceptable. I think playing bigots in a role-playing game is tasteless and should not be done. But it's not creative. We live in a world of imagination, and you enjoy. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Don't do it. That's that's literally it. Don't do it, dude. It's not fun for other people. It's not fun in real life, and it's not fun here. If you want to deal with bigotry, then do something interesting. Be the person being persecuted, right? If you want to play in a world where halflings are being persecuted by the noble classes, that they were treated as slaves and stuff, and you want to play a troll who believes that he's a halfling, that is infinitely more interesting than playing a bigot. So do those. Those are really cool. Put yourself in the shoes of other people and believe wholeheartedly that their suffering is also your suffering and treat it that way. It creates a great story. It creates a great narrative, and I highly recommend doing it. So yeah, that's that. So with those three major conflicts, of course, abrasiveness with the GM if you are, arguing against the world constantly, constantly being corrected by or constantly correcting your fellow players instead of embracing each other's differences, and of course, bigotry are the three major things that would stop an insane character from being enjoyable. That's flat out it. I've recently been dealing with an insane character on one of my tables. I'm a big fan of hers. She's playing a very interesting character who, on occasion, will see the world in a different light. And the kind of like tiny little minor events will occur that will guide her in the right direction. These are things that I do in order to add to the game, in order to make this character insane. Like, she might suddenly see a butterfly that flies into a flame and it sets itself alight. She then sees it sort of start tap dancing on the ground before turning to ash, right? It gets her attention. She's like, huh, I wonder what that means. And then there's a fire trap nearby, right? It's hard work, but it's interesting. I've been giving a lot of thought to dealing with insane characters since I started playing with this individual. And one of the things I think helps is when you want to interpret the world as an insane character, you want to find those elements that aren't there all the time. Because that was one thing I struggled with, was I couldn't constantly create those moments for her in order to continue the adventure, because that would be distracting. I would end up taking too much away from my own game to ensure that this level of insanity was constantly happening for that character. So one thing I recommended was looking at insanity and looking at what element of reality do you not believe in? What element of reality do you think is fundamentally different from what I believe? Hopefully that'll start working. And hopefully that'll be more directed in terms of what type of insanity she's got. But for you guys, if you want to try this at your table, try to find a thing, something that is like an imaginary element, like an imaginary friend, an imaginary creature, an imaginary symbol, and have it appear. These things can be used as a GM as fuel to be able to guide that character and help move them through this world if you are struggling to deal with an insane character. It's definitely one of my best moves so far, I've got to say, in terms of dealing with insane characters. And the character itself, like I said, there was nothing wrong with it. It was perfectly fine. It was a great character. I was just struggling to try and figure out how to fit it in until I started doing this. So hopefully that'll help you guys out, and hopefully you'll be able to deal with your next insane character. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course, go check us out on our new channel, DeadAussieGamer Live, where we're going to be running a whole bunch of games, and hopefully we will be showcasing some of these videos in practice. So go and check those out. Links in the description below. Come hang out with us on Discord as well, and check out our Patreon, and you can come play with me on a couple of tables as well. Thank you so much. Until next time, as always, game hard or die trying. Bye, everyone.